Greetings, YouTube. About 20 years ago, I worked for a small company that made ham radio antennas. And I mean small. I think the most we had at any one time for employees was 50. That was everybody, from the president all the way down. Interestingly, at one point we had 7 people named James. Things got very confusing. And it was not just small in number, but it was also had a very small town feel, which meant very socially conservative. And even though politically I think I would have fallen into the moderate conservative category at that time, I was still a liberal social individual. And I fell outside every definition that my coworkers had for a person. I didn't swear, I didn't smoke, I didn't drink, I didn't do drugs, I didn't like sports, wasn't into cars, I didn't even have a driver's license at that point. I wasn't Christian, and I read all the time. I read before work, I read on all my breaks. This profoundly confused my coworkers. I was, in short, the most aberrant individual they had ever encountered in their lives. They couldn't fit me into a box. They tried. And eventually, they found a box to stick me in. Not because that box defined who I was, but because it was the box that, for them, was the most aberrant thing that they could think of. And that was being gay. So they stuck me in the gay box, and pretty much forgot about it. Now, interestingly, a body of mythology developed around me. And there were people at my company, remember, it's a 50-person company, that were convinced, absolutely convinced, that I had publicly admitted that I was gay. Which I had not done, because I was not then and I am not now. But they were doing anything they could. They had to change the narrative of who I was to fit me in that box. In fact, it went to the extent where one of my coworkers actually arranged to set me up with one of her gay friends, which was rather sweet but misguided. I had to turn her down to say thank you, but I'm not interested. I never met the gent. I have no idea who he was. In fact, when I finally announced to one of my coworkers that I was engaged to my first wife, we had been living together for about a year, I suppose, at that point. I told her, I said, guess what? She said, what? I'm engaged. She looked at me, she blinked once, and she said, in what? She could not conceive that I was going to marry a woman. At the time in the state of New Hampshire, that was the only kind of marriage allowed. Now in New Hampshire, we have marital equality. Yay! But that was just another monkey wrench thrown into her mind. She simply could not wrap it around the concept that after having been placed in this box, I once again failed to live up to their standards. I failed to live up to the definition they had created for me, to the narrative they had crafted for me. So, I'm asking my viewers today, has anyone in your life, family, friends, work associates, extracurricular activities, anything, has anyone you know ever stuck you inside a box just because that's where they think you belong? Not because it is where you belong or who you are, but where it's the best place for them to put you because it makes their life easier.